Hi Apple lovers and welcome to another episode of the Tech Hub. This episode is 5 reasons why I switched to the iPad Pro M1 from the iPad Air M3. Was I right to do it? Let's get into it and let's start the episode. Okay, so I have recently, back in March, done a switch from the M4 iPad Pro, which is still overkill, and I stand by those reasons why I switched down to the M3 iPad Air. I was content. This thing was doing everything I wanted. The only thing I did notice though was slower transfer speeds. For example, right now I'm recording to Final Cut Pro on the iPad Pro. I then transfer that onto an SD and then plug that into my Mac. It's just speedier. However, it took longer to export it to an SSD on this compared to my M4 iPad Pro. That was the only thing that kind of stood out, as well as the bezels on this. The bezels really felt like they mocked me from being used to that super slim M4 iPad Pro. These bezels were bugging me, but I soon got too used to it. Anyway, I then, part of my eBay hunt for bargains from my eBay shop, came across a iPad Pro M1, 128 gigabytes. I got it with the intention of selling it. Set it up, crystal smooth and loveliness was happening during my testing of the product to then resell. I then factory restored it and then put it on eBay. And I was like, that was a rather nice experience. So I really looked into it. I compared the specs. I did several things and just couldn't get out of my head to make the switch from the M3 iPad Air to this, because this is doing everything I want it to do. And as much as an iPad Pro M4 is overkill for me as a semi-pro, go see that video. I'll put a link below and up here. A past iPad Pro is not overkill, it's a bargain. And the price difference between the iPad Air and ultimately the M1 iPad Pro is why I made the switch. So let's look into the 5 reasons why I've done it. Okay, so here's the 5 reasons why I switched. Everyone's hyped about the new M3 iPad Air, but after comparing them side by side, I made the switch. Not to the iPad Air, but back to the M1 iPad Pro. I've had one in the past before. And in this video, I'll give you my top 5 reasons why it's still the better pick in 2025 for a lot of people. Depending on your use case, certainly was for mine as a semi-pro, and especially for creative and power users. Reason number 1, the display is just better. So let's start off with the screen. The M3 iPad Air might be newer, but it's still stuck at 60 Hz. The M1 iPad Pro gives you that buttery smooth 120 Hz ProMotion display. And if you go for the 12.9 inch model, you're getting a stunning mini LED panel with deep blacks and extreme HDR performance. For video editing, drawing, even just scrolling, it's a big deal, and I certainly noticed the difference. The use case for my iPad is 80% watching content, so this is a high priority. So the screen is number 1. Reason number 2, Face ID versus Touch ID. So the iPad Air still uses Touch ID in the top button, which is fine and still very secure, but clunky when docked or lying flat. So the M1 iPad Pro has that Face ID and it just works. And no matter what the angle, it's one of those little things that you don't think about until you go back to it and realize how much smoother it makes your workflow. I have the iPad set up at the side of my desk just here, which is in reach, but it's just easier to unlock with Face ID rather than have to reach over and touch the button every time, or even put in my code. Reason number 3, Thunderbolt port equals real productivity. So here's something you won't hear enough. Thunderbolt. The M1 iPad Pro can connect to faster drives, high resolution displays, and more powerful hubs. The M3 iPad Air has USB-C, but it's limited to 10 gigabits per second. So for pros using external workflows, that's a massive limitation. So I transfer my Final Cut videos from my iPad to my Mac Mini using an external SD. And I noticed a huge difference dropping to the USB-C when I made my last switch. So getting the Thunderbolt back is a real plus for me. Okay, reason number 4, slimmer, sleeker bezels. So this one's very subtle, but it does make a difference. The bezels on the M1 iPad Pro are slightly slimmer and more uniform than on the M3 iPad Air. And that was one of the negatives I saw switching down to the iPad Air from the M4 iPad Pro. It gives the Pro a more immersive feel, especially when watching content or sketching edge to edge. It just looks and feels more premium in the hand. So when I switch down to the iPad Air, the larger bezels are the first things that I notice, and I just haven't been able to stop seeing it. Even though this is only slightly, it's better on the iPad Pro. And even in the hand, the dimensions are almost identical, but there's just something about the iPad Pro that just feels slimmer to me. Reason number 5, it's still a beast in 2025. Even though it's from 2021, so 4 years ago, and my battery health is 100%, the M1 iPad Pro still outperforms most tablets today. And right now it's cheaper on the second-hand market or refurb deals than the top-tier M3 iPad Air. So you're getting more features, better build quality, and a pro-level experience at a lower price. Now, bonus reason, which isn't enough to count as the 6th reason, is we share a Magic Keyboard and a Apple Pencil. So as soon as I made the switch before to the M4 iPad Air, we couldn't share it anymore. However, my kids both share the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil. I can now share that with them, which is a bonus and another cost-saving method. And hell, one of the themes of my channel is saving money. So depending on your use case, do not waste your money, or it was a waste, the price difference with the iPad Air to the iPad Pro. I'm missing what, 2 GPU cores. I don't do that much gaming, and that really doesn't make a difference, especially with the efficiencies of the M1. The one thing I would say is I was excited about the color. Color is a big choice when it comes to making the switch. However, I never noticed the color of my iPad Air because it was always facing me. Very rarely use it in my hand. And even when I did, you're not looking at the back of it anyway. So just like I've got a blue case, and I got a blue case from my iPad mini, which isn't in blue, same thing, I've got this lush sky blue iPad case coming to combat the color choice difference. So yeah, the M3 iPad Air is great. It's got the new chip, the landscape camera, Apple Pencil Pro support, but for me, the M1 iPad Pro just gives me more of actually what matters day to day. So let me know in the comments, would you pick the newer Air or the older Pro? Was I a fool to do this? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, please be kind. So even though the M4 iPad Pro was overkill for me because I am a semi-pro, not a professional, due to the price point of the M1 iPad Pro, that makes it an ideal for semi-professionals and you're not breaking the bank. Now I did another guide on Apple devices, which I'll put a link below, so that you can see where this kind of sits within what I think is the correct tiers for iPads and Apple devices. Pricing wise, look, you can get it for about £400 to £450 on eBay. Obviously that is secondhand. Be cautious of batteries, but my battery was 100% and you should be able to get a good deal. On the refurb market, it's £500, £600. Brand new, the iPad Air M3 11-inch at 128 gigabytes is £600. So you should be able to save at least £100. Go for the iPad Pro, you'll get a better experience, or certainly in my use case. So that's it for today's episode. What do you think? Which iPad do you have? And are you interested in getting the M1 iPad Pro as well, like me? Or the M2? Now the M2 will probably cost about 10% more. It's not much of a chip bump, but that is another alternative you could do, is get that. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and comments below, and as always, please be kind. Please follow me on Instagram and Threads at TechUpWheelchairUK, and check out my website at www.techupwheelchairuk.co.uk. Please like this video and subscribe to me, and I'll see you on the next episode.